Hello, good afternoon. So thank you very much for all the participants today for this session that we have this routine webinar every month, that maximizing your process data with customizable real-time monitoring functionality. I'm Joe from Matrix Invent, and we are the regional distributor for the Asia Pacific region with the partners from Canary. And do let me know if you got any question while we are going on with this webinar. The entire things will take time about 30 minutes. I will start now. Yeah. Okay. First of all, thanks for all the engineer and data experts who are joining today. I think before we start is that the first thing we would like to recap is that all the data engineers and experts would always have a very strong wish list. What they're going to do with their data. The first is, of course, they would like to store everything, the raw data in their plant, no matter they are in the oil and gas industry, or maybe they are in utilities, or maybe in their any of the intelligent building management solution environment. So depending on industry, so all the data experts and engineers would like to store everything. So this is a wish list that we're going to recap of all data scientists. So they wish to be also faster to pull out the data. In the case that anything happens, they want to easily retrieve back the data, no matter it is by a month or by a week or even by years. So sometimes some of the data can be happen in the last 10 years or 15 years. You want to also pull it out so that you can have a good analysis, on those data to form an idea about what's going on. Yeah. Then open access. In a way that it can be really open up to any particular person that you want to authorize them to access to the data. So what kind of data that actually they can access, most importantly. So who having the right to see what kind of data and the trend in the organization. Of course, the last will be very important, how to interpret and act. So because of this machine data, sometimes can be very difficult to understand, and how do you assign context on it and makes things simple to be understood by every like members in the organization. So I would say this is more like a wish list of all the data experts and scientists in many organizations. Yeah. But what's holding you back actually? Most of the time will be database management headaches. So in a way, it is talking about if you are have a, the blending in between IT and OT. If you are IT personnel, database that like SQL, that you got to do some maintenance, indexing problems and tuning, fine tuning all the time. And across time, so the database become very slower. And then in compared to if you are operational technology segment of people, that you will tend to be more like harder to pick up all these things because you're not used to SQL or the IT environment. So that become an unbalance in between IT and OT skill set to really manage database. That's always a headache among all the people together. Yeah. And high cost and slow ROI in the event that sometimes to justify that you need this kind of reporting to the organization, to other department, or even to your end clients, if you are operator running a particular facilities for your client. So to invest into this kind of software is very expensive. So sometimes the ROI can be talking about not 2 to 3 years or 4 years, can be even 5 to 10 years times. So those are things that I'm always holding back to that how you're going to further invest into a solution that can maximize your time series database. Yeah. But here today we're going to show you how to transform your operation with Canary. Yeah. So you can store large quantity of process data. This is something that we're going to show you. And then you can add context to your data to make it more relevant. And most importantly, provide your team with the right tools and secure database access as needed. This is especially important if you are an operator that you need to satisfy different needs of data or the reporting view by different functionals, department or people. So this is one of the key things that we will show you how Canary can help you to transform from it. So like I said, the whole thing will take about 30 minutes. Do let me know if you need, you got any questions. If you cannot voice out, you can type out, so that our team members that are also helping me together today, from Yong and Brian and Cheryl and Mike, will also help you to go through this Q&A session together. Yeah. Yes, guys. So Canary is a product that in the market for more than 35 years. It is actually from Pennsylvania, United States, and there have been 19,000 installations worldwide in the past 35 years. Okay, so they may have not been very active in Asia Pacific because last time they used to be in a very partnership and OEM model, but today they are very much into direct model to even engage the distributor, also to build the reseller network to work on this together. Yeah, and they have now 55 countries across 20 over industry, and it is used to be very much, the historical software or time series database is very much starting from oil and gas industry. But today, it is across the board that is used everywhere. As long as you got any machine data that you want to save it and anything like census data. So, Canary become one of the very critical software and the tools that can help the data scientists and the expert in the industry. So if you look back into the past 35 years, they have captured a lot of customers. That inclusive some of the customers like blue chip like NASA, Philip Morris, and some that not shown here is like the U.S. military, British Petroleum, and then Texas Instrument, Schlumberger, and also can be so scalable until some of them, the customers that can start from 100 tax, that is from some of the small medium industry, if they want to have a monitoring about their train of their automation of the production line. So it's very scalable from very small customer until very huge blue chip customer across the board. That you can imagine 19,000 customers have been trusted the product for that long. Okay, so I will go to 3 steps, to help you to understand how Canary can help to transform your data and maximize your data with the tools itself. The first is actually always collect and store your data. The second will be assign your data context, and the third will be maximizing your operation. Okay, so collect and store your data is very important because we are talking about how you can actually, what kind of data format they're going to support. So for Canary, they actually support MQTT Spark Plug B. So the Canary Collector is a software tools that you can store at the site, the project site, where it support multiple protocols like MQTT, OPC, UADA, SCADA system with some of the direct integration, SQL database, CSV files, and web and .NET API as well. Yeah, especially MQTT. That sometimes they are talking about, because the new trend will be just not only in the IoT environment. You may put some environment whereby you can store some of the census data and via this emerging new channels, and how you can really make sure that all will speak the same language to maximize your data from all the census environment. So that's also the key important things that how Canary collectors can support. Yeah. And this is how you can see that how it's going to work on the conventional way, that you put the Canary collectors on the OPC server that you can see. Okay, and then it will transfer the data to your historian server, which is the main server of Canary, and then will be viewed and accessed by different contexts with the client tools that you have. Yeah, and then you can have also MQTT brokers in a way this is much more becoming like a standard. So especially when you want to transform sensor data, IoT data in the Spark Plug B format, so that's also supported. And bear in mind that you won't have any data to send back, to the PLC and device. It is very safe. It is one way the data will be come to MQTT, come to the OPC server, and then will be transformed direct to the Canary storage server. Yeah. So the collector actually will be act like a cache as well. In the case that if the data link in between your sites actually disconnected to send back to your HQ. So the collector will then catch the entire data into the server that at the site. Sometimes it can be like even a small industry server box at the telco server, a telco tower. It can be also in the building management server environment. It can be also in the oil and gas, to certain the oil rig field that you want to have a OPC that you broadcast, the data that you can install with this service together. Okay, so it will catch the data locally if the link is disconnected. So by time it will notify the admin, so that to ensure that you understand what has been going wrong with the data connection, and eventually automatically backfill the data. So in a way, if the link is restored, so that will allow you to ensure all the data is not lost. So something that is very much very like a concern or a watchword by Canary, how to protect, store all your raw data without anything lost of your original raw data. Yeah. And you can also, send to a different receiver. This is more like in the case that you may have a different offices, a site that at for example, maybe you have a site in far away from the city, but you would like to have the data to send one copy to the control room for the operation, and you may have another copy sent to the management office to have a look about the real-time data. But sometimes you may also have some of the data act like a mirror and backed up at the other side. Yeah, and you can have multiple logging to send to multiple sites. There can be matrix relationship. There's no issue about it. Okay, so no SQL time series database. That's very important. If it is not SQL, then you will not have the problem that you need to maintain it all the time, and it won't have any problems like when times goes by, you got a lot of problem in terms of the degrade of the performance and the service. Yeah, so it is optimized for process data and performance. So no DBSQ required, very much out of the box, that you do not have any issue on that. Yeah, scalable. From 100 text, you can start in it until 2 million text, and you can connect the local historian to corporate historian. So dual logging, mirror logging, as just mentioned, So mirror is more like we just mentioned about if you need a particular backup service. It's very simple, because in this particular important raw data environment, that you may want to ensure that all your data will be safe in another location. So sometimes it can be, some people spend a lot of money just to measure to ensure that the heartbeat to be measured, and to ensure that the data will be act like a disaster contingency planning sites. So this is one of the very key thing. But for Canary, it's very easy. You can just set up a mirror service that you can sync in between your historian server, the main server, or maybe you talk about dual logging. You can log from multiple sites or log from one site to send data to different the operational historian server site as well. So all these are very flexible to configure. In Canary setup environment. Yeah. And you also have a very good, strong performance, compared to the SQL Server. I think the key important thing is because if you compared to the conventional SQL database like Microsoft SQL or Oracle database, so those databases are very much designed as rational, database, which you got a lot of tables, to compare, to link for each other. It is not because of which one is better. It is because of they are designed more into relationship database, rational database. But in compared to time series database, most of the time you may only have a text, and have a meta properties and also the value. So it's different. But however, but you still need to be very fast, very high performance oriented. That especially when you're dealing with some of the very huge environment that you can have like 100 million text, or 1 million text or 2 million text, to run into the database at one time. So that's important. So normally you will see these things into like those like nuclear plants, or maybe like a highly automated plant in a semiconductor firm. These are the things that you may have that much of text. Yeah. So the read-write speed is very strong for Canary, which is tested, all the time, and endorsed by the customers. Yeah. So for this actually short demo that you can see is that, so Carl, one of the principal engineer from US, showed us that, make an example that if you are trying to install the collector into a sender environment, like the OPC server environment. So they install this, into oil and gas based customer. So they just tested with 4 different core loggers from 4 different sites with 4 different OPC server. So the logger actually is mining, about 250,000 texts, from the OPC server. Yeah. So because this is talk about averagely between 270 to 250 in a way. Yeah. Then it add up total to be 1 million updates per second. So per second. It can be per second, it can be per millisecond, it can be per nano. If I'm not mistaken, you can still go down to that as long as the hardware infrastructure and the garbage in, garbage out, the data coming from the OPC server are supported with that millisecond as well. But normally we get more onto the second or 10-second range. And you can see from here, Carl shown us that even you have a very standard server environment with a 8 gig RAM, also 16 gig memory and also the 3 gigahertz CPU. You do not see any of such, all this like the server stress, for that particular 1 million text writing per second environment. So everything is very looks very cool. That you do not need a very specific hardware or industrial server to do that. Yeah. So what is a tag? I think for all the data engineers, experts know that what is a tag. But for just newcomers, in the case that you start to want to use time series database in your organization, so tag is actually referring to like a few group of components of the field that group a tag. Time span, which is the date time, second, minutes of the time. You have a value. Like if there's a sensor for the pressure, you got a PSI, you can measure. Sometimes temperature is the Celsius degree, the quality, good, bad, halfly register, or the metadata properties to talk about what is the context of this particular data. Yeah, so this is how it goes with the tag. Yeah. Lossless compression algorithm, which is Canary, done in the past 35 years. They are having a very like enhanced version. Here is the 21 version from the first version. They have 21 version, just launched in February. So lossless compression algorithms that's developed in-house by them. You do not have anything that you lost, but at the same time, you can really compress, 3 times the compression. So even that, you are talking about an average of like 100,000 tag of data to store 10 years or 15 or 20 years. I believe, you were talking about, the standard server in the market, like 1 terabyte, you can easily accommodate that kind of needs, so there's no issue on that. So that goes on by talking about how important of this data compression. So we have some of the experience before with some of the customers to talk about when they want to measure about, the change of the climate, to talk about the rainfall for a particular area. So they're collecting all the rainfall, from that particular mountain or something like that. In a way, they need to be really make sure that all this data are actually measured and stored across a very, very long time. But most important is that you do not have to really go into to do the database maintenance, to juggle the problems of the data. So how is the backup? They do it as something like freehand. Once installed, they can walk away, and they do not have to worry about the data space to be recorded right down to the hard disk. Yeah. Store the raw data value forever. That's very important because we are talking about, let's say in any environment, even in the oil and gas environment, you may go 100,000 text or 200,000 text. But sometimes you may not use all the text at one time because in the reporting wise or in a performance enhancement analysis wise, that you may need only 10, 20 or 30 texts. But you need to store all the raw data in case if anything you want to look back, you have all the raw data that never missing. And sometimes you never know what kind of raw data will end up in the context of calculation, will give you another output as something that's very useful for you. Yeah. Okay, so very out of the box ready, something that you do not need any programming or customization skill, that you like I would say the importance of balancing the OT people, like us, we are not IT people. How do I actually get it out and install and straight away I can use and perform from there? That's very important. Yeah, so no data loss is something that you have the words from Canary. So I think most important, a database that you can depend on. Yeah. Okay, step 2 will be something that to assign your data context, assign that. So like all data expert that you know that all the machine data in the production line in your plant or environment, sometimes it goes with a format like this when you come to sending you the data represent via your OPC server. So you got this O20, BL, 001. It doesn't make sense or show anything. So you may have easy to handling if you got only 1 or 2 production lines. Just imagine you have 10 production lines or 20 production lines. That become a problem for even sometimes the data expert or engineer themselves to interpret this data. And needless to say that you're talking about you're sending all set of data to your clients, to your management, to other department to analyze certain performance issue. That's very, very difficult to see this data. So the desired format is that, if I get something to give a very important name, and simple to understand name like line boiler pressures, so then I will start to understand easily, and look back easily, and also present it meaningfully to the to other people, especially if you're not running like an operator to your clients. Okay. So virtual views are created on top of the historian. If you look back into this architecture, is that the Canary historian store all the data from OPC server, and then you have another 3 main modules. The views is actually talking about a tools that can really how you can access to the historian server. But at the same time, you can create events that we explain later, how you can do calculation that you want to make sure that because of our tag 1 and tag 2, that will become a tag 3, a new tag that is dependent variables. So independent variables is something that is all come with the strict from the sensor, and the dependent variables is something that you may have a few different data. So to calculate become a new meaningful information for you, but all will be connected to one of the view engine from here. Yeah. So view engine will be something that connect to the client. So client from here they call it the ASIOM. That the ASIOM will be able to help you to really assign a context to the data that is so difficult to understand and become easy to read on that. Yeah, it can be view 1, view 2 in a way, because you want to make sure that some client can have the view on view 1 and view 2. You can be also have multiple client to access into different view. Okay, that may be in an example of a wind farm or a solar farm, because the solar farm can be very huge, but you may be distributed the solar farm into different clients to be getting the power output from there. Okay, but however, the data and the dashboard and the real-time monitoring from different clients should be different and based on what they are, hire or render the service from you. So as an operator, you want to make sure all these data are really like authorized and categorized so that they will mix with each other on all this data. Yeah. Okay. So via the view from the conventional machine data, then you can straight away go to the client-facing view. From this view, the client will be much more easy to understand from this view of the data. Okay. So this is another example of imagine the site in again, line 1, line 2, and line 3. You got boiler, you got fueler, you got water main, you got production line 2, you got boiler, fueler, water main, and also boiler, fueler, water main. Okay, so this is a different thing. However, sometimes that's another important thing is that you want to declare the asset models that you have. So that's important also because when you talk about in a particular plant, I think especially all the operational experts here, that if you got multiple boilers, if you are representing the department to maintain the boilers or to make sure the boilers are within the specification or the performance that you want to make sure they can still operational in a safety environment. So then you want to need to know your asset model. Besides of accounting purpose, you also need to know that the asset that you have. So how do you group all this together? Via Canary, you can also build your asset model by grouping all the boilers together. So you can actually then eventually to really give the kind of data to your clients, to request the data based on asset. It can be boiler, it can be fans, it can be even wind farm, that I can know that a group of my things that I invested the boilers in your production line, does it really still working in a safety compliance environment, or can be also, is the boiler still functioning? Did I got missing? Someone steal it and take away from the site? Or are they even healthy to work, really still the environment that expected to be the performance as it is? So these are the database requests on the asset model. Okay, you can also show all boilers temperature, filtering based on the asset condition, in a way to talk about, you want to ensure that all the boilers with the temperatures more than 220 Fahrenheit. I want to know all the information from all the text that I have. So imagine you got 100 production line or even 10 production lines, but you got so many different boilers inside. But you want to assign a condition to drag out the data to just do an audit, maybe even whether your boilers are working all healthily in that environment. So you can be done in this as well. Yeah. Okay, so we go to calculation engine. Calculation engine, this is something, a good example that I like Carl and Sean to show. They are the principle for Canary to show to people about it. So just imagine you're driving the car, with a speedometer. So the speedometer is very much raw data, like 40, 60, you strict going with miles per hour. However, you also got another data to talk about, the fuel tanks, how much fuel that is still available in your fuel tank. Okay, and then you can have some condition-based data to check, if your engine is working or not working. So if not working, they will tell you have less engine, or your engine is not working, your brake is not working. So this condition-based data, but you also have a calculated KPI that's very important. So let's talk about, to tell you that, okay, approximately with your driving speed now, 40 miles per hour, and with the available petrol in your tank, so how much you can still go? 186. So you can have much more accurate and useful information to let you to make good decision. Then when you're going to pump the oil again, at least maybe from 30 to 50 or 60, or maximum you can go by 150. You got to hit the petrol station. If not, you will be in trouble. So that's a very important that we just I mentioned before, the calculated tax, or we call calculated KPIs, or something that you want to ensure that the dependent variables means something further from your raw data. Yeah. Okay, a single calculation can be deployed to all instances of an asset type, run in real time while backfiling. 70 functions available. This is talking about the function. They have an in-house calculator. They used to come from version 1 to version 10. They have some built-in, like I say, the previous version built-in calculation that you can do hard programming in while getting the data on. So eventually now, until the version 21 of today, they do have a very useful scientific calculator that you can just anytime to pop up, call out from the screen, and then you can just assign, add on a few data and plus some of the industrial formula that you want to add inside. Okay, so we do know. For example, maybe you talk about, if I want to know that if I got the temperature from boilers 1, boilers 2, and boilers 3, plus the scientific calculation and formula of this, then I can find out a meaningful information of what dependent variables of these two calculations. So these are important. One in real time while backfiling is that talking about you don't have to worry. Anything that you put on it, straight away. In fact, it can be real time. That you can have 5 texts, an additional 6 texts come out. Is after the calculation, straight away you can look back into all this data in real time, and also calculate the backwards if all the data are available. The viewer of Azure will immediately perform the data calculation for you, no matter for the incoming real-time data or also the backfiling data as well. So that's the key thing about how good, how important of the calculation engine available for the scientific or data expert like you guys. Yeah. Okay, so that is why then you can come to this like asset model, view that boiler. You can have average temperature per hour, That's simple way to perform percents of rejected bottles, and then total daily volumes per line from waterman. But I'm talking about if we see some of the even much more complicated calculation, even in some of the intelligent building management environment, when you can understand, the data expert, the consultant talk about the temperature outside the building, inside the building, how many incoming people counted within the mall, then you will adjust the temperature to what is the best way to ensure that you have the best saving of the energy. However, the report is very important. So from 5 days, 5 months to 5 years, that you can also see a particular climate change on this environment as well. Yeah. Okay. So event monitoring, you have condition-based asset monitoring. We talk about, we have reporting-based, condition-based asset monitoring. We talk about sensors. Then we have reporting based on event performance. So this is more into like talk about, if anything trigger and happens, do you want to have a report of that particular scenario to be able to send to a people that is concerned? for the reporting based event, then also analytics from within event duration. So this is something talking about, if I want to set a condition for the reporting, can I have something to understand from level percentage of 25, and then the temperature more than 80. So how do you trigger a particular event? So you can do a lot of this like if, or, and, so that you can trigger and then send a report based on that to a particular person in concern. Particularly, I would say is during there is a risk concerns, I would say. So if the PI is above 100, you need to notify who, and or maybe some immediate action need to be taken to make sure that the pressure running back into a normal environment. Okay, so you can even report to talk about started, ended, duration, properties. So it's very much that you can have a handful of many event monitoring triggering algorithm that you can set that to really maximize your data. So that's important, that how Canary can help. Again, it is everything out of the box. You do not need to do anything like I would say programming, hard coding. It is something very intuitive. You can just call the tools that you can put in a formula, and then you can just start to benefit from there. Yeah. Okay, so maximize your operation. That's the important, the last thing about it is the Asium. Asium is, I just say that the view that you can see the trending, but how do you view it? Trending, dashboarding, and reporting. So it is built in with HTML. What I mean by is that this is important, especially nowadays, during the pandemic time. Many times, many engineers are not allowed to be so squeezed into the site together. So you may want to have a view about what is happening at the site. So sometimes you are not in the office, you're sitting on the on the store or the roadside, or maybe you are in a pub, having a beers, or maybe you are even having a prayers or whatever. But you just want to take up your handphone and your iPad to just look at the data. So with the build with HTML, you do not need to really worry about what is the client end model. Take out the handphone, log into the site, you can see whatever thing it will resize based on the browser and based on the view that you have on your phone and on your laptop. So you can build a trending, dashboarding, reporting, build HTML, design for self-service reporting. Everything can be automated if you wish to, that's very important. Okay. And that's the very basic screen design of the dashboard. So just imagine that, some people want to build this dashboard. Sometimes you're talking about if it is not new. Whatever you see here is nothing is standard. So it's come from a drag and drop tools that you can drag particular thing and assign a tag, and straight away you can see the trend. And this is about 4 tags here. It may be 1 or 2 tags. It's actually a combined or calculated text, in a way. We're not so sure. But the important is that you might just create a text within 5 minutes if you wanted to. It is so easy. Okay, so you do not need any special skill. It's purely and drag and drop. Assign a tag to particular on the graph, it will start to look into it, that you can see the whole thing on. If you can see the stop here, that you can actually, the stop icon in the diagram, that's something that you can manipulate like a video or the sound tape, to fast forward and back forward. And sometimes you even can define the time that you want to know that is it now want to view in a minute time, 10 minutes time, in hour times. So that's important how you're going to manage it without any issue on that. Yeah. So you can have even a better view of the dashboard, that you put in some donuts, that sometimes you want to have a donuts to also representing if the donuts value more than 5,000 to display the color in red colors. If it is in between, like 3 to 5,000, you want to display in orange, and eventually also below 3 you display in a healthy green color. So these all are the things that you can always do on the the drag and drop dashboard to design the dashboard. Like I said, again, the dashboard is very intuitive. Even when we go further, you look at much more complicated dashboard design that I think maximum you may just, if you use it many times, you can just feel it. You can do it within, a day. So you can do the entire dashboard. Just imagine you're an operator. So to really save your time to design different dashboards for your clients, that saves a lot of money. And this dashboard actually count return on investment for you, because all the dashboard you may charge to your clients, for additional information, but it's so easy and intuitive to design. Yeah. And like you said today, donuts a factory, you can see is that not just only oil and gas, not just only utilities, or even military or NASA. So time series database happen in every plant, industrial automation 4.0, data servers farm, as well as any machine, just like human. If I want to tell you what is the blood pressure that I have, what is the sugar level, these are machine data, body data. But same to all machine does have some data from sensors or from production line. So this data is not just only limited to oil and gas, but also to any of the factories. In fact, the practice in the huge plant environment, the concept of knowing the trend of adding the enough salt or enough sugar in a defined healthy level or defined level that will be not more and less to maintain the taste consistency is very important for many huge factory to do brand building on that. So that's why Donut Factory also will have all these kind of like things to manage their factory operation. Yeah. Then you can see something much more even complicated, and this one more into like even to talk about to the wind farm, the turbine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can have a turbine 1. Sometimes you can have multiple assets models that represent from turbine 1, 2, 3, because you may want to see if turbine 3 or maybe group of turbine 3 inside for how many sub turbine, that you can also go into that level as well. Yeah. So you can for you to see is that there's a map here. You can incorporate certain like Google Maps into the dashboard so that you can have a much more easy view for control. In the case of like, for example, anything happen in an oil field, or like let's say maybe got some small fire catch up in certain oil rigs, in certain environment. How do you see which one from which area immediately? Very intuitive. Then you can make a reporting to a police, to a rescue team where you're supposed to go to help the team member that caught on fire in that particular environment. Yeah. So you can also have this one is much more even into like a warehouse, because pandemic, so e-commerce are booming. However, the retail space are getting much more less popular these days. But however, you got a lot of warehouse requests, in many countries, I would say. So the important is that when this e-commerce is really rolling, but the warehousing also need to be much more careful to install a lot of sensors, in particularly to talk about the humidity levels, to talk about the temperature, because some of the products may be really can be, I would say, deteriorate, or become spoiled if it is the too humidified, or maybe too dry, or maybe even too hot, or in some situation. So you need to know all this stuff data in a warehouse environment. So in this environment, you may have this picture, to be included inside. Sometimes to look into a situation, if a particular location to talk about, is it the humidity level suddenly grow very fast due to some leaking or any situation that happen, you got to first hand to view it if your CCTV support a live streaming environment as well. Very simple, straight away connect to the dashboard, put the IP inside, and you can also design a dashboard in an environment that you can have a live video stream. Yeah. So that's very much into the dashboard itself for Azure that you can design within hours, that you can have one simple dashboard to even complicated like this, maybe maximum 1 or 2 days to design the dashboard. Yeah, nothing is standard from here. Yeah, and Excel add-in, in the case that you got some of the clients, and most of the time, the clients do not need complicated data or trending environment. They just need something very simple Excel to send to the client daily, weekly, or monthly. So in the case that they also come with an Excel add-in that you can straight away do not need to remove all the data from Azure. Straight away from Excel, you can open up the data from Canary Historian server. So just to copy whatever text that you wanted to, and then just to combine all and then send the data to the client. You can automate in this way, easy to copy, and also eventually using certain macros, to define the reports that you wanted to. Yeah. And the Canary connectors that sorry, this is the Canary add-ons. So you can I can just show you on this add-on as well, that you can open up, you can see all the text that available in the server that you install with the Canary Historian. The agent will be able to drag all this data. You can copy, just apply all data, or you can choose 1 or 2, or choose 2 or 3. So that's the whole concept about how you want to do the Excel add-in. Yeah. So Canary connectors is very important. I think the importance is that the strength of Canary connectors is, if we compare to a lot of other competitors in the market, the connectors does count as a license. But for Canary, they understand the fair play is that if you use their server, you can have a lot of connectors, how many that you require. There's no licensing issue on that. And the connectors support publish service, web API, MQTT, OPC, ODBC connectors. There's so many things that you can connect. So just to ensure that you can connect, get the data that you want, set up whatever reporting asset model in your organization. So that's the key important passion of Canary. First, to help you to connect, and then how to present the data for you with less maintenance headache, and most importantly, eventually the data context to be meaningful to anyone. Yeah. Okay. So the Canary system, again, that's all about the brief about the session. But the important, I just go through with you what is the components inside the Canary system. A basic Canary system come with Canary collectors, come with store and forward capability. It comes with a historian, include 100 text, basic text. Then you get the virtual views, calculate the servers, functions, event, Asium, Excel add-in, and Canary collector. These all are come with a base system. Okay, so the base system will give you one concurrent Asium license and one concurrent Excel add-in license. If you require more, that means at one time, how many people will log into the system at one time, at that moment together, then you may need to calculate. It's not by name, not by user. You may have one user Asium license, concurrent for 10 users to use it in a different time, or you may sometimes to talk about, a client that want 24 hours to look into a trending from the service that you provide. Then you may want to add another one license Asiums for them because it is always connecting. So the concurrent license count in this way. Yeah. Okay, the Canary connectors mostly are free, except you do have certain connectors that, like for example, ODBC and maybe some customized connectors that require different service. Then you can let us know, and we can discuss with Canary and to discuss about what is the best way to implement with cost or without cost. That's something that always our passion to ensure the customer is happy and know that we are very concerned about the connection. Yeah. Okay, so you can customize your own system from the Canary website in the case that you want to just check what is the price. The most important is that who will host the data. First, you must define whether you host or whether Canary Cloud will host. Okay, so most of the customer, I would say, in this part of the world, is all going with hosting ourselves. Okay, on-prem, since the price is not very expensive, the return of investment is very fast, and the investment requires very low. But some customer may not be affordable and they're not mission critical. Maybe they just want to be like storing some of the data in a minute time, and maybe 100 text maximum, or maybe they only use 10 text in a way. So in a way, they would like to, they don't have the expertise to set up anything in the organization. They just want the cloud to handle it. So they also have this functionality for you to be much more easy to enter. However, I would say this current server will be very much located in US. In the case that you need a mission critical cloud system, that you need to have a further discussion with us and Canary maybe in Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong or Taiwan to set up another server on that. Yeah. Unlimited license tag, in a way. So this is this you can do this as well. So in a way, it's a pricing. It's very transparent. What I like Canary is that the price is very transparent to allow the customer to understand. So it's standard across the world that per 100 text is the base system start with $4,000. Okay, by subscription is $135 per month. Okay, and then you have 5,000 text is how much? Every time you have 3 concurrent user, per concurrent user you're going to add up 995 for either Asium and Excel add-in. Then how much you're going to subscribe? These are some of the examples that can show you. And the important is that we have many customers whenever they hit something like the 60,000 text. So especially 60,000 that you do not require to go for anything for 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, because that's too expensive and pricey. So once you hit 60,000 text, that is the time that Canary will give you an upfront unlimited license, but will be at the price of 60,000. So straight away from there. Yeah, so it is very good, especially for huge setup environment, water waste management, oil and gas, that you can have easily 200,000-300,000 text, and this is a situation where Canary come very cost effective that help you to do the same thing, quality, but very good in terms of return on investment. Yeah. So in the case you do have an enterprise licensing agreement, like I would say the entire worldwide, you got more than 1 site, 10 site, 20 site to use it together, you can also custom request from us. So that's the importance of the pricing model on that. Yeah. So very simple. By the time that you think that, yeah, your metrics, Canary, I think something that is very suitable for us, and we want to do something together, then you can contact us, then we can do something, the proof of concept for you. Okay, so you get a copy, normally free 90 days trial after some question. Of course, they would like to know how you're going to set up. They would like to support you as well, what kind of environment to understand your business requirement more, and what is the time frame you're going to install and set up the system. Then step 2, you just purchase it, and then that's important. And then eventually is to deploy and train. But like I said, the important is that the team is very passionate from Matrix ourselves and from Canary, no matter how, from different time zones. I think one is from Pennsylvania, one is from Asia Pacific. We actually cover 24 hours. So in a way that you require us to do a support, and raise a ticket for you to even from Asia Pacific, or even if you got a site in other part of the world, so it can be well covered. For both team for this environment. Yeah. So the first year, free of support for the first year, and the second year you got optional that you want to really purchase a support and option to like a software assurance to ensure that your investment can get any fee upgrade is required. Yeah. Okay, so I think we overrun a bit on the time, so now it's the question and answer session. So I will pause myself for 5 minutes. If you got any question, you can type for me and I can answer. Okay, or if in a way that if no, then I will end the session. But you can always send an email to me so that we can follow up from the session together. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a good routine. We will do it every monthly for routine session. Perhaps for different industry, and we try to align with the speech together. And do feel free to contact us. Do feel free to contact us every time. So sorry about that. That's the effect of work from home. And we will end the session and send us an email if you require more information from there. Thank you, and you have a nice day.